college basketball over the weekend?
I saw Carolina beat Virginia. Watched
Okay.
that game on Saturday, and actually was watching a little bit Carolina and Florida State right now. I tell you, if this team can continue to shoot the three the way they're doing right now, watch out, folks. This
They have they found a Brady Manic replacement, or
um
is that it just kind of been the slow, gradual
well, right now,
build?
kind of
Is trying to find that, because I think that's part of why they've
yeah.
struggled so much. Is I think they missed Brady Manic more than they
Um, I think
realized.
is it Peter Nance or something last name Nance, the graduate transfer from Northwestern. He coming into the year,
Okay.
everyone thought he was going to be this year's version of Brady Manic. You know, he's 6'9", long arms, can shoot the three. You know, can guard all five positions. He just hasn't been able to somehow lock it down this year. And I think Hubert Davis finally put him in his office last week and said, "Hey, you need to be more aggressive on the offensive end. You know, get after it." And he did that on Saturday against Virginia. Um, in the first half, dominated the game on the offensive end, and then took over on the defensive side of the ball. And then tonight, against Florida State, he's playing really well, and they're getting everyone else involved. And like I said, they're starting to shoot the three better. I mean, this year they're shooting 30% as a team. Oof,
Ooh.
yeah, with R.J. Davis and Caleb Love, that's not acceptable. You know, and Armando Bacot's a walking double double. He's averaging 17 points a game. He's doing his thing. So if they get these players going around him, and they get Nance going, and Leaky Black's one of the best defenders in the country, and you get that backcourt with R.J. Davis, Caleb Love, and if Puff Johnson can come off the bench, I'm telling you, this team, if they get in the tournament, that's a team you don't want to play. But they got an uphill battle trying to get into this tournament. They got to beat Duke on Saturday, and then probably still win a game or two in the ACC tournament just to get in there. But again, if they beat Duke, they're Carolina, they're a national brand. Sorry, Loyola Chicago. Dick Vitale, you can have a meltdown on TV on Sunday. We're not going to let the Cinderella in. We want the big boys there in the tournament. So go Heels in that aspect.
Did you get to see the Fran McCaffrey stare down?
Thanks to you, yes, that was the best stare down of all time.
Oh, I've watched that so many times, and it's just so funny. It's the most Fran McCaffrey
It's the
thing
most
ever.
frantic.
Just staring.
He knew he needed to get a tech. His team wasn't fired up, so he just goes, you know what? They can't kick me out of this game for just looking at a guy. So he just stared him down, looked into his soul, and that official looked scared. He looked frightened.
He just looked like, I don't know.
I don't.
Like you could tell he was thinking like, should I give this guy a tech, or do I? I think that's what he wants. So I don't really want to feed into him or let him go. So I'm just gonna stare back at him, and we'll see who steals whose soul. And it turns out Fran stole Tom
Dude,
Izzo's
you know what's
soul.
funny is this is Fran after the game goes, you know what's funny, guys? I wasn't even upset at at that official. I was upset at the other one, but if I knew if I looked at him, he'd tech me up. So I thought I'd stare this guy down.
Oh, that is
and
good
we
stuff. And now, yeah, and Michigan has finally found their way back into the first four out. Now I saw today they got two wins. They went into Rutgers, into Jersey Mike's Arena, got a win on Thursday, and then Sunday in an overtime win over Wisconsin. And thank you, Hunter Dickinson, for a 40-foot shot to send it into overtime, and Kobe Buffkin, a big game as well. So who knows? Maybe this Final Four prediction of Michigan making it and Carolina making it might still
hey,
be
we might be
alive.
speaking this into existence here.
That might be it. I think that's got to be it. It's something. I'm glad to see Michigan actually finally playing well, but like I said in our group chat, is they've got two tough games this week. They've got Illinois and Indiana to close out Big Ten play. So who knows what'll happen there? They'll probably lose both of these, and then they're going to need to win the Big Ten tournament to make sure they get in.
Well, you know, but for Michigan's sake, they got of those games coming up. The one you have to win is Illinois because
Yep.
Indiana's playing some good basketball right now. I mean, they're hot. They just
Yeah.
beat Purdue. They look
They swept Purdue,
Purdue
didn't
this
they?
year. Yeah. Talk about a team falling on hard times. Purdue, my goodness. Right when you think
Yeah. Somehow Michigan's number 2 in the Big Ten right now.
the Big Ten is such a joke right now, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. like as much as I've dogged on Michigan this year, and we haven't just because we haven't talked a lot of college basketball just within the group
Mhm.
chat, and all like every time, and then like you dog them, and then it's like, how are they like in the top 5 of the conference? Because I think they got down to like 8 at one point, but then they've always kind of floated in that 2 to 5 range where it's like you win this game, you're in third in the Big Ten. You lose, you go all the way down to 10th. It's I don't know where the Big Ten tournament is this year. I don't know if it's in Indy or Chicago or
I think
wherever it
it's in
is.
Indy.
Okay, but it's going to be a wild
Well, and
game,
it's crazy because
wild
you know
tournament.
about 2 weeks ago, looking at the standings, it was Purdue, 50 feet of shit, and everyone else. Like to your point, that 2 through 8, they were all like, you know, 9-5 and 8-6 in the conference, all just kind of meshing together, kind of like the Western Conference in the NBA right now, where if you're the 4 seed, you lose 2 games, you're playing in the play-in. You're just these teams are so close with each other, they're just battling each other out. You don't know how it's going to go. Like to your point, Michigan could have the double
Yeah,
bye.
and Northwestern has probably been out after Purdue. It seems like they've been the most consistent team in the Big Ten, which is a crazy statement to say for
Well, 5 years
Northwestern.
ago, we were celebrating their first win in the tournament ever.
Yeah, first time in
First
the
time in the
tournament
tournament.
and win. Yeah, but yeah, we'll see. It'll be an exciting final week. Like I said, NDSU will be playing on Sunday against the Coyotes of South Dakota. Um, and they got 2 wins over the weekend. They beat St. Thomas on Thursday, and then Western beat Western Illinois at the buzzer on Saturday. Bowden Skunberg hit the game-winning shot. Uh, a game where they were up 16 early in the second half, and they let Western come all the way back, take the lead. And it was probably one of the more like sadder, depressing, like just weird post game press conference, and then like the actual post game press conference in the media room where Richmond was just extremely like disappointed. Like you would have the way he sounded is you thought they just lost by 15, but. I think I understand his frustration because they were up 16. It shouldn't have taken a buzzer beater to win. And that's just kind of been the MO of this NDSU team all year where they're just so inconsistent. You can probably attribute that to
Mm-hmm.
youth, but it's also at the same time it's March, and I think that's part of why Richmond's been so kind of just a negative Nancy in a sense where because he knows what it takes to win in March. The guy's won 3 Summit League titles. He's been to the last 4 Summit League championships games. He knows what it takes, and the effort that they're putting forth, it's not going to be good enough, especially when they go down to Sioux Falls. Because if they beat South Dakota, you know who's going to be staring them in the face that
That would
Monday
be South
night?
Dakota State.
The Jackrabbits, in which is going to be basically a home game for South Dakota State in a place where South Dakota State has pretty much dominated NDSU, where NDSU's only beaten them 1 time down there, and that was in Richmond's first year as head coach.
Now, because
And then if they win that game, then they got to go play a team that hasn't lost in Summit League play.
and who's the number 1 seed again? Number 1 team?
Oral Roberts. There, I really don't think it'll think. I think it's Oral Roberts tournament to
Well,
lose.
what didn't they almost get to the Sweet 16 2 years ago? Or they
They
did?
did. They
Did that's
did.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. They and their stud Akesmith is still there, but Bannon's I think he's used up all his eligibility. He played last year at Texas
Gotcha.
Tech. But yeah, he's a stud. They've got a really good team around them. And that when they went on that Sweet 16 run, they were beating NDSU by 25 at halftime, and NDSU came all the way back, had a chance to take the lead. Sam Griesel was fouled. The ref didn't call it, and they actually call a foul. Griesel makes his free throws. NDSU is going back for a third straight title
Tournament.
or us NCAA
Yeah.
tournament.
Well, Oral Roberts, they got all them
But
dudes from Oklahoma City who were
yeah,
neglected by OU and Oklahoma State, and all those Texas schools. So they just go right down the road to Tulsa, and they make the tournament, and they make people look stupid.
pretty much. And I mean, I will say, if there's a coach that would screw something like this up, I think it would be Paul Mills. Guy just seems like a insufferable short man syndrome
Douchebag.
asshole. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Exactly. And and this could be Grant Nelson's last time we see him in a Bison uniform. He's getting a lot of draft buzz right now, and if he decides not, it sounds like he's gonna declare after the year, but he doesn't know if he's gonna. He'll go through the draft process, the combine, all
We'll
that
do the
stuff.
whole.
But it's also another thing too that you got to worry about now is the transfer portal, because with his skill set that he has, I mean, there's plenty of Big Ten teams just drooling at looking at him and thinking, "Well, we could do a lot
Well,
with
yeah.
him."
I mean, what would make a school like Wisconsin or Michigan State or Iowa from plucking him and saying, "Hey, come here and play in the Big Boy Conference and get some more national notoriety." If especially if you go through the draft process and they say, "Hey, this is what you need to work on," X, Y, and Z. And if you come out right now, you're going to be drafted in the second round or undrafted. Why not go to a Power 5 school and play these against the big boys? Work on those three skill sets, and who knows, maybe sneak into the early second round or the late first round as a transfer.
And he technically would have 2 years of eligibility because his freshman year was that 2020 2021 COVID year where their eligibility didn't count. So that's also another intriguing thing for him. And I don't know where he is graduation wise, but growing up in from North Dakota, probably could have had dual credits that transferred in to where he could graduate after 3 years. And it sucks too. It's just it is what it is. It's the nature of college sports right now. But if somehow he stays at NDSU next year, they are by far and away the favorites in the Summit League to make it to the big dance. Because they don't graduate anybody. They have no seniors on the roster.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And I mean, looking at who they have coming back, it's a very talented roster. Even if Nelson leaves, I don't think that would I think if he were to leave, probably not the favorite, but still up there and definitely going to be able to compete. But that game is Sunday because they're the 3, so they don't get that day off in between. But maybe we record on Wednesday next week, so that way we can recap the Summit League Championship and hopefully celebrating a Bison win, Bison big dance appearance again.
I'm down for whatever, because the Summit's always what, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
So it's actually so everybody goes down to Sioux Falls this year. Mm-hmm. So it actually starts Friday. There's playing games Friday. The top 2 teams play Saturday, and then they get to bye those 2 teams. Whoever wins from the Saturday games, and then Sunday it's the 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5 matchups. Tuesday semifinals.
Okay. Monday
semis. Tuesday championship.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting.
And another cool thing is that I believe the NDSU women actually will be playing in the women's NIT this year because they finished second in the Summit League, and they aren't beating South Dakota State. They are extremely talented, and I don't see anyone coming within 20 points of them.
Well, you got to.
But that is cool to see because the Bison women, who in the 90s were one of the best teams in Division II women's basketball, and it's actually pretty cool because the second best team in women's Division II during the 90s was UND. Both teams were battling for national titles, and it's cool to see the NDSU women back who have been down since they've made the jump to Division I, and this is by far the best season that they've had in years, like damn near 20 years.
Well, I was going to say, because when we were when we were on campus, Dylan, no one gave any respect to that women's program. They were almost kind of the laughing stock of the athletic department.
Yeah.
They just couldn't do anything right.
No, they just missed on a couple of coaches, couldn't get new recruits. And good to see them finally finding ways to turn it around. But there's still a lot of work to be done because South Dakota State's still the class of the summit for the women, and it's going to take a lot. Because they're South Dakota State's consistently nationally ranked. They won the women's NIT last year, and they just got to find ways to keep building and getting up to that. Try to get up to that point, which I think in the long run, I mean, you could almost say that like you take NDSU football and SDSU football, when the best team in your division is competing at the national level like South Dakota State is, that's going to raise your level of competition and raise your level of competitiveness to where you have to be. And who knows, you could surpass a lot of those other teams to get there if you can find a way to get on that South Dakota State level.
No question about it.
So that's our basketball talk, I think. I don't know. Do you have any other basketball talk you want to do? Is Carolina still winning? I saw they were up 11?
Yeah.
Oh, now it's 7. It just said.
When I turned it off, they were up 16. It was 18 at halftime. Florida State got it down to 11. Carolina got it back up to 16. It feels like they're just going to be kind of going back and forth where they consistently have that double-digit lead unless they decide to fall flat on their face. And if they lose to a 9-20 Florida State team, this season's over. They're going to have to win the ACC to make the dance and get that automatic bid.
Yeah, it looks like they're up 8 with 27 seconds left. Yeah, so we can sharpie this one in. We got to get used to saying UNC Sharpie.
Well, and
for the for
this
the big
year's
dance.
This year's tournament's going to be weird, dude, because there's like 8 to 12 good teams. There's no elite teams, and there's no teams that I really trust.
No, I would probably agree with you, especially like Alabama is good, but all the mess that they have going on there, who knows what's going to happen with that situation? We don't have to get into that, but like, I mean, in the end of the day, like with the way that tournament is, as much as like appealing as like the upset could be, you almost just want to go with the blue bloods, go with the guys you trust. The Kansases. I think even Kentucky's a pretty solid team this year,
and they're playing better as of late. Unfortunately, Duke has been playing better. They're getting a little more comfortable with their freshmen and Shire. UCLA is going to be up there. Houston, I don't know if Houston can score enough points. That's always going to be their Achilles heel. And then Baylor, they're so hot and cold this year. Like when they're on, they're maybe the best team in college basketball, but when they're off, they look like they're going to lose in the round of 64. So I don't know. It should be an exciting tournament, and teams that started good but are now fading hot, which we can always never trust, being Tennessee and Purdue. Stay away from those teams with a Sharpie. I learned that last year the hard way, thanks to Michigan for taking out my national champs in the second round.
Darn right. And then, I can't remember who you just said that was playing well, and now
Kentucky's playing well. Duke's playing well. Kansas is playing good, but Kansas doesn't have a big guy. But also, there are really not many bigs in college basketball this year besides Armando Bacot and Ziti at Purdue. But they have no team around him.
Yeah, but because like we had Arkansas, they're not even ranked.
Nope.
They have 10 losses. And I'm like completely, or like a Texas who had to fire their coach. UCLA, yes, that's who I was thinking of. Yeah, and they bring back experience too, which is huge in March. It's when you look at the last however many national champions, it always comes down to point guard play, and usually the team with the most experienced backcourt finds ways to win.
Well, and because really, this trend where freshmen on your teams for college basketball has only produced 2 champions in the last 10 years. And the last one was Duke,
Yeah.
in the spring of 2015. Besides that, it's been, to your point, grown men and seniors and, strong guard play.
And Mick Cronin's a hell of a
Yes, he
coach.
is.
A guy that not many people at UCLA fans wanted. They were jeering that hire left and right. And he's come in and he's made UCLA about as relevant as they've been since Kevin Love was there.
Yeah, I mean, they're a top 10 team. They finally won their regular season in the Pac-12 for the first time in like 10 years. This past weekend, they have a lot of talent returning, and with that, they have a lot of tournament experience. Gonzaga 2 years ago in the Final Four, you lose last year in the Sweet 16, a close game to Carolina. They've been there, done that. They're not going to feel the pressure of the highs and the lows of a tournament game, like a lot of these other teams are with a bunch of young players are. Like, with Alabama, like you said, Braden Miller, he's only a freshman. He's got some other things going on his way. What happens, when he gets into a big moment and he starts to think a lot? We don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll find out for sure indeed as that gets closer.